Hey gang, Spacetime Badass here. Today I'm going to be sharing my first lucid dream, and this is in response to a video Giz made about his first lucid dream, and he tagged myself and two others, and we are supposed to tag other lucid dreamers to share their experience as well. It's really great to see the people who have responded so far, and I'm really interested to see how far we can get this thing to spread out and hear other people's stories. It's really interesting and a great idea by Giz Edwards, so thanks for this, Giz. It's really, really awesome. Now, the story of how I got into lucid dreaming is something I've shared a few times on my channel, and you can check out my uploads to kind of get more information there. But for the quick and dirty kind of rundown, the first lucid dreams that I ever had were the effect of a hallucinogenic drug, which is magic mushrooms, psilocybin. So after having them for the first time, and I'd already come down, I went to bed and had some of my first lucid dreams. So the first lucid dream for me is really kind of difficult to pin down which one it was because I was having so many at the time. As well, it kind of depends on how you define a lucid dream. So at the time I didn't think this was the case, but now I kind of think that out-of-body experiences are actually lucid dreams. So after I'd gone to bed after taking the psychedelic, I found myself floating around the downstairs of my house. And I just sort of realized this is kind of odd. I'm supposed to be in bed asleep, and then I woke up. And I thought that was really weird and interesting. I went back to sleep, and it happened again where I was just sort of floating around the downstairs of my house, passively looking at things, nothing really kind of going on. And those seemed at the time to be more out-of-body experiences, so I didn't really include them as my lucid dreams because the beliefs I had at that time. But I had various other lucid dreams that were very brief. There was one during this time that it was just simply me sitting on my couch at my house, and it was one of those dreams that is just so insanely vivid and real that it's just bewildering to a point. And I wasn't really ready for that sort of experience at the time that it happened, but in this dream I was simply sitting on my couch, and I just suddenly became aware. And it wasn't even necessarily the experience of knowing that I was dreaming so much as it just felt like that I was unconscious, and then suddenly here I was conscious sitting on my couch. I looked at my hands, and then I began to melt into the couch, and the dream just collapsed. It was just very vivid and insane. One of the first ones, I know this is one of my earlier ones, I was playing Halo at the time. I think it might have been Halo 3 at the time I was playing. And I had that on my mind so much that I had a dream about it. And this is where I was just kind of in a match, and I was like me physically there in a Halo match, and someone hit me with a sticky grenade, and it exploded, and I stayed alive, and that's how I knew I was dreaming. And so suddenly I was like, oh, okay, this is a dream, and then everybody else who was around just sort of vanished. And then I just happened to look over to the other side of the map, and I saw this just gigantic rock. So I went over to it and just decided that I was going to do a feat of superhuman strength in this dream and pick up the rock and throw it as far as I could. And so I bend down and I begin to pick up this rock when I see like a presence kind of off to the side, and it's very pixelated and dark, glitchy, kind of moving around. And then I just kind of look in that direction, see nothing, and then I woke up. But I think the very first lucid dream that I remember actually writing down in my dream journal was one of those dreams where you are frantically looking for something and you can't find it and you don't know where it's at. So in this dream, my mother and I were in a house that I have no idea where or what it was supposed to be, and we were just frantically searching around for a skeleton key and having no luck in doing that. And as a side note to that, we were also speaking to each other in French. I don't know French, but it was likely just gibberish that sounded very French to me, but we were communicating and we could understand what each other was saying, even though it made no intelligible sense as a language. And for some reason, that might have made me kind of go lucid. I just happened to go lucid, which happens a lot in my dreams, where I don't have like this realization moment, anything leading up to that rather, where it's just suddenly like, oh, I'm here, I'm dreaming. So it was kind of that sort of thing. And that dream, I just sort of realized I was dreaming, and then immediately got caught up in lower lucidity kind of stuff. So even though I was aware that I was dreaming, I was still really concerned with finding this key. So that was the first dream I remember writing down. The dream that really I started to see some progress in with lucid dreaming, and this was still during the month or so where I was having lucid dreams from the psychedelic that I just didn't try to have. I found myself downstairs, which was a pretty common theme at the time in my dreams, to be in my house, or specifically in the downstairs area of my house. So I had realized that I was dreaming downstairs, in the downstairs of my house, because I was just walking around and all the lights were off, and there was this sheet of paper on the wall, and it was glowing blue, and it had all these symbols on it. So I walked up to inspect what it was, realized I couldn't read it, and became lucid. And so I spent a lot of the time in the dream just kind of walking around my house, admiring how I could still see so sharply in the dark in the dream, and that everything seemed just really vivid and everything in its place in that dream. And then I decide I'm going to go upstairs and look around and see if I can see my body in bed sleeping. So I go up the stairs, and the light's on up there when the rest of the house had been dark. And as soon as I round the corner on the stairs, because the stairs you go up and then you round the corner, and it's this very open kind of loft area. And when I got around the corner, I noticed that there was a human skull hanging from a rope on the ceiling. So I kind of looked at that, and it was like freaking me out a little bit and gave me this kind of nightmarish, ominous vibe. And as I stared at it, I just decided, I didn't want this thing in my dream. So this is my first real attempt at dream control. And so I tried to change that to the first harmless thing that I could think of, which was just a flower. And so I just told myself that there was a flower hanging there and not a human skull, but I wasn't getting anywhere looking at it. So what I ended up doing was holding up my hand so that I couldn't see the skull, and then just telling myself behind it was just nothing but a flower hanging from a rope. And when I moved my hand, there was this awesome sunflower head hanging from the rope, but it was actually a fuchsia colored sunflower head. And with that out of the way, I went about my business, and I went to my bedroom, which is the next room over, and I saw myself in bed sleeping with my girlfriend at the time. And I thought this was super interesting. So I went over and I touched my body. And then it was this experience where my body, the body that I was experiencing from in the dream, and then my other dream body of myself external to me, as soon as I touched him, it's like we were laying on each other in opposite ways. Like my body merged into his body, only his head and my feet were here, and his feet and my head were here. So it was like completely opposite. And I thought that was just super weird. And there was this weird magnetic feeling going on with that. And then I eventually got free of that sort of magnetic pull and decided that I was going to physically go through the window in my bedroom and see what was outside. So as soon as I start walking through and I feel my face going through the window, I actually get stuck and can't go any further and end up waking up. So those are a few experiences as to my first lucid dream. It's kind of, again, really hard to pin down and kind of depends on how you define it. My first lucid dream was probably the out-of-body experience formatted, but if we're going for the first lucid dream that I wrote down in my dream journal, it was the one with my mother. Probably my first proper lucid dream was the story with Halo, and then my first lucid dream where I was able to have some control was the one that I just shared. So yeah, again, this has been a really fun thing to kind of explore and explain some of my earlier lucid dreams. And again, if you want to hear the story of how I got into lucid dreaming, the full version, you can see that in some of my videos that I have on my channel. I believe one is called My Lucid Dreaming Journey, How I Started and Why I Keep Doing It. Kind of a mouthful. But now it is time for me to tag a few other lucid dreamers so that they can keep this chain going. So let me think. Basically, everybody who has done this tag so far already knows exactly who the first person I'm going to tag is going to be, and they've left that open for me, of course. So, thank you guys for that. Of course, I'm going to tag Daniel Love, aka the Lucid Guide. I would love to hear that from Daniel. The second person I am going to tag is going to be Jay from the Lucid Sage, and he has a podcast as well. If you guys haven't heard of him, check out his podcast. Even if it's just a text thing or like maybe a quick podcast explanation, audio recording, that would be really cool to hear from you. And the third person I'm going to tag is another member of Team Lucid Dream, and that is Gio from lucidsource.net. I would love to hear from you as well on this, Gio. It would be super awesome. You've got a bit of a mystique going for you in the Team Lucid Dream sphere, so I think a lot of people would like to hear your experience with how you started. But I think that just about covers it for this one. I hope you enjoyed this video, and do check out the other Lucid Dreamers who have done this tag, as well as Giz himself, and stay tuned and try to look for the other Lucid Dreamers who are tagged in subsequent videos so you can check them out and get a lot more new lucid dreaming stuff to inspire you and people to learn from. If this is your first time watching any of my videos and you haven't subscribed yet, now is probably a really good time to do that, wink wink. As well, for anyone else who wants to support the channel, you like what I do, don't forget to leave a comment, give this thing a thumbs up. You can support me on Patreon. There should be a card on screen now for that. As well, you can check the description box down below for some links to get 10 to 20% off lucid dreaming supplements when you use my link and code down below. But until next time, take it easy.